and welcome to the Plenty of Positivity podcast. I am your host, Courtney Beck, and today we have Dr. Barbara Vokatis. Dr. Barbara is an expert and innovator in assisted animal education. She is a professor. She is a podcast host of Get Inspired with Dr. Barb. She is an award-winning author and a keynote speaker. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome Dr. Barbara Vokatis.
Thank you so much, Courtney, for this wonderful, wonderful introduction. I am so honored that I'm able to have this chat with you today.
I am thrilled to have you, Dr. Barb. I have to let the audience know. So I have been following Dr. Barb for quite some time now, and I love your particular area of expertise in education. So I cannot wait to jump right in and what really got you into that particular area. But first, Dr. Barb, let's go ahead and begin with a general introduction and background of yourself.
And so I am a professor, actually, full time. And that means that I do teach and I also do some research and I also do service because that's also important. When you work in academia, academia is a very interesting animal, so to speak. I teach students who either want to be teachers, so undergraduate students, or those who are already teachers, but they are getting master's degree in a certain area of education. It's called literacy education. So literacy, that means they are learning to become literacy specialists, teachers who are helping children in schools become better readers, writers. In a nutshell, I'm not going to go into depth, but I enjoy animal-assisted therapy or animal-assisted interventions. There's all different names for that a lot. I have a therapy dog, and we've been going to some schools for actually 7 years already. And it became such a big passion of mine that I decided to publish books about this practice. I never really thought about publishing books, writing books, but this practice made me do that. And I enjoy also speaking about it, of course. And podcast probably is also inspired by this practice, I think. And also neurodiversity, because I have a daughter who is autistic. And this is another passion of mine. And it goes with animal-assisted intervention actually very well.
This is incredible. So I want to take a step back and recognize, just like you said, all of these titles that I was introducing from the very beginning. I mean, being a full-time professor, just like you're doing, right? Being able to be a podcast host, because we were speaking before this, not many professors do podcasting in general. And so I just commend you with not only being a professor, the podcast being obviously you have several books. We were just talking about that, but really like what it takes to be able to do all of that. And like you said, you have such a passion for that particular area of expertise. And so my question to you is though, as you look back, what really triggered like your interest to go into education in general?
I think I always wanted to be a teacher, I think. When I was a student in elementary school, and by the way, I come from Europe. I was born in Poland. That's where I went to school. As a student, from the beginning, from being in primary classroom, teachers were always like my role models. And there was something cool about teachers. I wanted to be like them. And also I liked to learn. I always liked to learn. That's probably why I have 2 master's degree and then I ended up doing PhD. I always like to learn, and doing a degree does provide you the knowledge. And so I had an opportunity at one point, I remember when I was a teacher in Poland, to do a different job. And I wanted to try it. And I'm glad I did, because after like a couple of months, I'm like, no, that's not my spot. But you have to try these things. That's how you know. And then I kind of finalized this job. Uh, Maybe I was there 10 months maximum. And after that, I'm going back to teaching. And when I came to the United States, I wanted to continue this career. I wanted to be a teacher. So that's what happened. I did my second master's degree here, and then I decided to try to do PhD. And my child was 2 years old only, so it was kind of a hard decision. Like, do you really want to do something like that? And I was going into full-time PhD studies, and I have a little child. I was like, well, I don't know, but how do you find out? Well, just try it, right? Try it, and then you see how it goes. And if it doesn't go well, there's always a way of stopping it and just doing something else. But I think that's what I did all my life, just trying different things and just being a teacher first in the classroom. But then now I'm teaching students. And I think because as a professor, you teach graduate students, undergraduate students. In that way, you have a way to influence them, hopefully. So
Mhm.
then they can go and teach children. So in that way, you have a way of impacting, hopefully, more children through teaching these undergraduates and graduates, in hope that they will become good teachers. So I've been teachers. I've been a teacher for, I don't know how many years. I don't want to say it. 30 years, really.
That is fantastic. And
Yep.
when you were speaking about, which I think is it's such a good topic of discussion, because I certainly went through it trying to figure out exactly like what you wanted to do when you came out of, your undergraduate degree. But I really do. I think what was interesting, you and I certainly have this in common, but just a real desire, like genuine desire to continue learning and different areas of study.
Mhm.
And on top of that, like when you were going through that time of finding out that, yes, I definitely want to be a professor, could you maybe walk the listeners through? Because I always explain myself to be Dr. Barb, this like ping pong ball through my 20s of like, I was doing this and then I was doing that. But then everything always works out. And obviously it
Mhm.
has for you. So could you maybe share more of that journey
Yeah. So
exactly?
when I was finalizing my master's
Mhm.
program, really, and that was done through University at Albany. Mm, I had professors there who were also teaching in the PhD program.
Sure.
So I knew that, because you need letters of reference. I knew that they might be able to write me letters of reference, because no matter what I did in my life, I always tried to do a good job at it. So those who were supervise me or whatever, they would have a good opinion about me. And
Mhm.
that's a good thing to do, because how else are you going to get those letters of references? But it wasn't just so simple by me saying, well, I'm finishing my master's studies. Guess what? I'm just going to now jump into PhD studies. I didn't have such a high belief in myself. Like, yeah, I am doing this master's, it's doing pretty good, but who am I, being that I am, immigrant and English is my second language, and now saying I want to do PhD? It's like, is this for me or really not? I wasn't really so sure about it, honestly. But I remember that during the master's degree, I met someone who was doing master's program and PhD at the same time. And she was from another country too. And I was like, wait a minute, if she is doing that, maybe I can do that too. Just like that simple fact, and being able to know someone who was doing it too, and she was from a different country too. I'm like, well, that maybe mean that I can do it too. And then I was talking to one of my instructors about the PhD program. She did herself, and she did herself. And I asked her, "Do you think I could try it?" She's like, "Oh my gosh, sure, you should try it. Go for it."
That's incredible. Well, and you know what's so interesting is as you speak about this, the way that I got into the PhD program was literally I was introduced to it from a professor. I had gone to a sport management conference,
Mhm.
and I talk about this a lot, especially with students, because never be afraid to strike up a conversation with
Yeah,
a professor, with, an academic counselor, because honestly, like, PhD, I never even thought of that at that
right.
particular time. And so I'm just so happy you mentioned that. Like, just really, you know what I mean? Like how things sometimes just evolve and that you don't have to be so worried, because I'm telling you what, Dr. Barb, before I got into that program, I was like, okay, what's next? I'm always that person. Okay, what's next? We finished this. What's next? And so it's just so exciting to hear your journey, how it really did. It just naturally, like, you flowed from one thing to another, and then you found your passion. And
It
so,
was amazing. I loved my studies. It was very hard. It was
yeah.
very hard because I was doing it full time and I had a young child. So I'm not going to say it was easy because there were many periods when I didn't have a single day off because that's how it was. And so it was very hard. And, for 5 years, very intensely. But just this idea of, taking it one day at a time and you move in, you get some results. And that makes you do more, right? You continue more. There were some crises on the way too.
Oh, hey, let me tell you, like, just like you said, I mean, there really is. There's, to me,
Yeah.
mentally, I was pushed to limits I didn't even know existed. Like, I
Right.
really, you know what I mean? Like, I think we could talk about this because it really is. It's like I'm I'm mentally tough from sport that taught me that.
Yeah.
But m when it talks about, like, when we talk about, like, academia in particular, like, obviously, they don't hand out those degrees, so, like, you really do, like,
Mhm.
when you work for it, you work for it. But I think that's so interesting about how you speak about even the balance, for obviously being a wife, being a, mother too. I commend you for that, because that's admirable to be able to juggle, being a mother as well as going through that PhD
I didn't
program.
know much about balance at that time, like self-care, that even if you don't have time, you still can do like some kind of exercise or something. I just was focused on doing that. And that was probably one of the problems why I had some crises. But that's just how it was. I was focused on doing that, right? And getting through that. Um, and now I know better that even when you're busy, you do have to find time to take care of yourself. This is like so, so very important.
No, thank you so much for sharing that. And I want to get into, in particular, within education. If you could just introduce us to Carmel and who Carmel is.
So I think because my dog actually right now is on the floor
Oh
sleeping,
my gosh,
but the
so
best thing
cute.
would be to show the picture of my dog. I guess that's the easiest way. So this is my golden doodle Carmel. She's a standard golden doodle. And really, the way it kind of started with my daughter, I think, because my daughter was diagnosed with autism when she's 18 now. She was around 6 or 7 years old.
Mhm.
And so we struggled a lot, but it made me think about certain things about education, how children with special needs, they can have it really tough in school and sometimes they don't feel so welcomed always. And I was thinking about that we still don't really have enough resources. We are not able to make the environment welcoming enough for these children to function well. That there's something wrong with the educational system. I didn't know exactly at that time what wrong that was,
Mhm.
but when my daughter was about 10 years old, we got a dog, and we had problems with our dogs, with walking her. And anyway, long story short, we had to employ um, a trainer, a dog trainer, so
Mhm.
she could help us with walking our dog. But I was thinking about it too at that time. When I remember when trainer said, "Well, you know what? Your dog is actually incredible. I think she might be a therapy dog. She might be a good candidate for therapy dog." And at that time, I thought to myself, "Wow." how about therapy dogs and classroom, autistic children? How would that work? I didn't know much about therapy dogs or what they can do really at that time. But we went into this field, we got certified. And then really every time I took my dog to local school, it was just amazing to see what's possible to achieve for children with the presence of the dog. And several years ago, we started also experimenting with this practice. I found an incredible teacher who was willing to try different things. And we worked with children and helped them with writing because of my dog. We also work with math. My dog participated in all kinds of fun, creative activities to help children learn math. And now we're doing in fifth grade social studies and science. So that's really interesting how no matter what level of education, it can be second graders, it can be fifth graders, they all really um, they all really want to experience something like that. It doesn't really matter what age. You might change the activities a little bit depending on the age level, right? And grade level, but it just works every time. And so that's one thing that adds to my schedule. Once a week, I go to school with my dog, but this is something that serves almost like a therapy for me, because when I see children's responses to our presence in the classroom, it really makes me think that this was a right field for me to get into education and promoting now these ideas among my own students, because you can imagine in the field of education, universities that teach education students, they don't really teach about this. These people don't learn about the value of therapy dogs in the classroom, what you can do to help children. And right now, children come with so many issues, diagnoses with all kinds of conditions. And you're not going to be able to use only the textbooks and the courses you learn when you were the student. You have to have some other resources, or think about it or know about them a little bit, and then maybe to be able to bring a therapy dog team to your classroom. You can do amazing things with a therapy dog if you open a little bit to experimenting. But that's what teaching is about. I mean, if you don't experiment as a teacher, are you really a teacher? I have doubts about that.
I mean, that's so beautiful. And my question to you, you were certainly like answering it, but you mentioned second graders, fifth graders. Have you gone into high school or even college level with Carmel?
We went to high, no, we're not going to high school right now, but we used to go to high school too. Sometimes the attitude in high school is, oh, it's high school here. We have no time, whatever. But, you know, there's just a lack of understanding, what it could do for these kids, right? You would maybe have fewer problems if you were thinking a little bit in an open way about it. But I also take my dog, depending on what I do on campus. But
Right.
sometimes I do take her, and I take her to the classes. I teach mostly undergraduate because they are on campus. I teach them physically in the classroom. So she's often a guest and a part of my teaching, really.
That is so exciting. What is the reaction from those college students with Carmel?
They absolutely love it. And sometimes the best reaction you get even in the hallway when you are not taking your dog to your classroom you teach. And I remember I'm in the hallway with my dog, and all of a sudden I hear some kind of like screaming in the hallway, like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I thought I was hallucinating, but it's true. A dog is here. And they're like, running. Can I pet your dog? Can I pet your dog? They act like little kids because they stress as well. And you rarely see a dog somewhere, right, in an institution. So when you see a dog, it's just right away like your everything about you is changing. Your physiology probably there is a lot changes going on, and you feel better. You talk about the dog, you pet the dog, and it just makes a big difference. And then they interact with my dog, even just like in the hallway. It's like, oh my gosh, it made my day. Thank you so much. we get this kind of response often. Or sometimes I just walk down the hallway with my dog, and all of a sudden the classroom door opens and there's a professor. Oh my gosh, what you do? Would you pop into my classroom for a little bit? And then we just do like this impromptu visit, and everybody's like, wow, and they have questions, even for like 5-10 minutes max sometimes, and it makes a
Mhm.
big difference. I love these visits a lot.
That is so exciting. I mean, I'm a big fan of dogs. My husband and I have 2 Labradors, and
Awesome.
so, like you said, I mean, they really do, like, they could just, like, light up your morning as soon as you walk out. They let us
Hmm.
know right away they need their breakfast, but it really is, it just puts a smile on your face, and the tail's always wagging. And so my
Yeah.
question, from the time that you have started, bringing Carmel into the academic, like, setting, from that point to where you are today, what significant changes have seen with just the outcome of bringing Carmel in the classroom?
The first huge change we saw was in children's writing, because I remember when we started doing some experimenting with Carmel, these kids, second graders, their skills after pandemic were very weak. They didn't even want to write anything, like really anything. And the teacher, an incredible teacher, is trying to figure out ways how you can motivate them to do some writing. So we did all kinds of little activities with my dog. One of them was very simple. We just asked them, hey, how does Carmel show that she's kind to you? And everybody raises the hand because everybody wants to talk about my dog, because they already interact with her, so they know her. So they want to describe how she's doing, how she's acting like a kind dog. Amazing. You already get participation from everyone in the classroom. Shy kids, not shy kids, doesn't matter. And then you ask them to write about it. And guess what? Even those who are reluctant as far as writing, they write with help. They want to write about it because it connects to the dog. And then what happened is I was reading to children one of my books, the first one, from unruly to therapy dog, about our journey to becoming certified therapy dog team. And I think I was teaching them like visualization through the book. And they were very interested in me as an author. It's like, oh, wow, you wrote a book. How hard is it to write and publish a book? I'm like, not really hard at all. You can do the same thing. And they were like, huh? And they're like, can we do that? Sure, you can. And then both the teacher and we started working with children on that. I told them every time I came, only once a week. I was coming only once a week. I told them about something like how you figure out a book cover or something like that. And they created books with little chapters. Some of them, they had like
Mhm.
6, 7 little chapters. But the amazing part was that these children, some of them did not want to write at all. And here they are writing books, and they create goals like, I want to be an author when I grow up. I want to write thousands of books when I grow up. And then when we returned to school the following year, we were not going to this children's classroom anymore. We were going to a different one. But these kids always, when they saw me in the hallway, I still have my book. I was writing my books over the summer. I mean, this is absolutely amazing to hear something like that. We were we were not expecting these results. And then we had a very small group of children for math. They were very weak as far as the math skills go,
Mm.
but through games and different things, in which my dog participated, like kids would hide, but they would hide. Um, each child would have like a math fact in their hands, and they would hide, and my dog would find them. And basically, if my dog finds you, you have to read the math back to her and you have to tell her the answer. So they were trying so hard to do it, and then they were like, oh my gosh, Carmel's wagging her tail, I'm right, I'm right. And we do a lot of this, and they just had a totally different attitude as far as how they were showing up for this remedial math group. And so that was really huge. We had kids who were afraid of dogs, but through the activities, slowly they were like ready to pet Carmel. So that was amazing too. And now with social studies and science in 5th grade, we were just doing an amazing project. Kids were learning how you can how do you produce those dogs cheese bones. And I didn't even know myself how you do this. So we were watching videos about it. I brought cheese bone myself to the classroom, and then we ended up doing butter projects. And it's just all kinds of interesting projects that it's really hard to you know talk about all of them right now here. But one thing leading to another project. It's just really therapy dog team and teacher willing to experiment, willing to try something different, and then seeing that your experiment is creating something incredible. It's creating more learning, more enthusiasm, more motivation, more engagement from children, and that you can actually teach so much more when you give that control a little bit away, that you're not afraid so much, right? As a teacher, that you need to control all the time, the whole curriculum and everything.
No, that's so true. And that really is, that's amazing. Like when you were speaking about opening up their minds to writing books, I even think about like, I mean, we could talk about high school, we could talk about middle school, but just that idea of understanding the possibilities that are out there, as soon as you graduate high school, providing just more insight into different majors. And so when you said that, writing a book, like I never really had thought about that, at that particular age. And I just love how it opened up their mind, and the excitement that you saw, I think is
Yeah.
incredible. And my question to you, I was just curious as you were speaking about that, just opening up their minds. I'm very, very passionate just about our connection with one another. And especially after the pandemic, of course, we were extremely isolated, all of us. It certainly took a toll, one way or another on individuals, different age groups. But did you see when you pulled Carmel into the classroom setting, did you see more interaction with one another?
After the pandemic?
Yes.
Mm, yes. The transition was kind of, I think, slow. I remember at the end of pandemic, whenever that was, we
Sure.
first we were outside and kids
Mhm.
could meet us outside. I remember because it was like supposedly
Right.
safer, right? To be
Mhm.
outside, to interact with people outside. And then we went inside. The Actually, I think with kids, they always reacted to my dog being in the classroom the same. It doesn't matter if it was before pandemic or after. They always reacted the same, always with enthusiasm, just like seeing something, the most incredible thing that comes into the classroom. So because of that, I don't think that their reactions were that much different. Really, the enthusiasm was always there. But what I remember when we were allowed to enter the building for the first time
Mhm.
after the pandemic. So it's like no longer outside, but we can come in actually. I remember that some staff members were in the hallway and they saw me and Carmel in the hallway and they were saying, "Oh my gosh, I think that right now we can say that we have normalcy back because you and Carmel came back." And they were like even crying. So that was really interesting.
Oh my
But with children, their reaction to seeing my dog is always incredible, no matter what. Pandemic, before pandemic, after pandemic, it doesn't matter.
I think that speaks volumes about dogs because,
Yeah,
like I said, maybe I'm a little biased, but I really do. I think there's something to be said about just animals in general, whether cat,
yeah,
dog.
yeah, because
But
there are other animals that are therapy animals. It doesn't have to be a dog at all.
no, I think that's beautiful. I mean, just to see, like you said, how you've impacted various grade levels and students within those grades. And my question to you is, with your book, which I really want to discuss, your children's book, Carmel Goes to School. So, what really sparked that particular idea to write that book?
That is connected to neurodivergent children actually a lot because
Aw.
I've noticed that in schools sometimes neurodivergent children are told a lot how they should behave.
Mhm.
There's a lot of like correction, trying to make sure that they act like the rest of the so-called normal population, and not so much work as far as well, yes, looking at neurodivergent children and maybe telling the so-called normal children who don't have these conditions, well, maybe Johnny is talking a lot about his interests, and some autistic children are like that. But maybe that's a good thing. Maybe you can learn something from Johnny, and because he's an expert and obviously knows a lot about that, so you can become an expert if you learn from him, uh, whatever it is, whatever interest he has, right? So looking at neurodivergent children a little bit differently, seeing them as people, young people who have some gifts and also some expertises, and not constantly trying to make them adjust to the so-called norm. Why do we ask one group of students to adjust to some kind of norm that nobody really even knows what that norm is? And any kind of norm is always constructed socially. So I don't think that a norm really even exists. So why do we constantly teach neurodivergent kids? I mean, they do need some teaching. Obviously, they need to work on certain ways that would help them in functioning better, but they have skills and talents that should be appreciated by their peers as well. It's just, do we teach that? Do we really create classroom communities that are inclusive? And so in this book, Carmel goes to a classroom and notices certain children acting not very nicely towards other children. And she's taking these opportunities and teaches them about how they can look at the situation differently, what they can do differently, and even how they can take advantage of an opportunity to learn from someone else who might be a bigger expert. So what that they talk extensively, but maybe you can learn from them. How about looking at them through that perspective?
I love that. And I think that's so true. Like even in life is like how powerful perspective is, let alone educating, just like you said within this book, of celebrating our differences and what we
Hmm.
can bring that is uniquely like, just instilled in us that we could collectively come together and celebrate those differences. Because I think that's so important today with the education system, just really focusing on kids and pulling everyone together. Because I don't know, I've become very interested in bullying, cyberbullying, and how
Yeah.
that's been kind of the trajectory with that. But like I said, being able to be kind, like how do we be kind to one another, that sense of empathy with one another, even at a very young age. So I'm so happy, like, congratulations on that book.
Thank you.
Really, that's incredible. And Dr. Barb, I would love to transition into the world of podcasting. So you have a podcast, as I had mentioned before, Get Inspired with Dr. Barb. So what particularly sparked that idea to go into podcasting? Because just as we had spoke, not many professors do podcasting.
Hmm. I think that one thing is that as I became full professor, I started thinking a little bit about other ways I can sort of educate or contribute to the change in education. And really, when you think about it, mm, just by doing research and publishing that research in certain journals, it's not civic engagement. You're not getting your ideas out there. You're not really doing much to spread your ideas among the larger society, so to speak. How do you reach out to the parents? That's the population I want to reach to. Parents, teachers, administrators, and the larger society. And I used to actually, on my Instagram, I used to do Instagram lives, and that was about promoting um, children's book I think authors. Yes, that's what it was, with animals as theme in them. So it was kind of interesting. But Instagram lives, they don't really live that long. And then I started really dreaming about starting my own podcast. But I knew that I was very, very busy and it wasn't something I could just easily do. And I knew that I had to do some research how to start it. I mean, I know you don't have to start being fully prepared. I know that, and I'm not, but you have to do some research. You have to find some tools. How are you going to do it, right? And especially when you do it on your own, you're not hiring a team of producers, obviously. So eventually, after this extensive research, so to speak, I gave it a try and I started it. But really, I wanted to have a topic that would have something to do with education, something to do with my expertise. And that's why it's on innovation in education. So I interview teachers who innovate in their classrooms, but also um, any other expert whose work can contribute to beneficial change in education. And I just recently interviewed, the podcast is still needs to air, an episode with Dr. Melillo, who is a world-renowned expert in autism, and he has a clinic. He provides therapies for autistic children. This is something I recently really found out. He's actually pretty famous. And so it was just amazing to be able to interview him. But as well as some other experts, I had some really cool people. And a lot of them experiment with animal therapy intervention. I just had speech therapists who has therapy dogs, and they are helping her in providing speech therapy to children. It's absolutely amazing what can be done for children whose speech and speech is a really wide topic. It's not just how you pronounce words, and there is so much you can do with animals. Uh, she is so much more effective as far as being a speech therapist, pathologist, they call them speech pathologists right now. So I interview these people who innovate in this area because I want to give it back to the field. This is my field too, animal assisted intervention, and also others who innovate in this area. If they have something to contribute, then I would be very happy to interview them.
That's wonderful, Dr. Barb, because just like you said, being able to really reach like society, like you said, like your focus is parents, but it really is that vehicle, the podcast itself.
It is, right? What else is out there? I blogged, but it was kind of meh.
Well, I mean, it really is. I've gone through that moment where I get in a pretty consistent routine, and then it's like, I mean, really just as you mentioned, I'm glad you mentioned it, but podcasting, I really do. I feel like all the education that I had gone through did not prepare me for like video editing, video
No,
production.
no.
And so you're right. Like you really do have to do your research. But then once it's up, I think one thing that caught me as you were speaking about like specifically parents, but how it could really build a community. And of course, over here, we're all about community. And so you're right. Like you get to meet people, at least in my opinion, I probably would have never met like otherwise.
Exactly.
And so I'm just so happy that you brought up like just the pros of podcasting and the positive side of what it could really
One
bring.
point, though, what I think helped me quite a bit was during the pandemic, I became very active on social media, especially on Instagram.
Sure.
My account was a dog account, so it was all about Carmel. And at that time, I think dog Instagram accounts just exploded in 2020. It was just crazy, and I became a member of a community for social media influencers who had dogs, and we learned a lot about I in that community, and I learned about different apps that could help you in, like, editing your post, right, and all that, and then doing Instagram lives, all of these little things help you in starting the podcast. So if someone is like paralyzed, oh my gosh, I would love to start a podcast, but it's like I'm not on social media. I don't know how to do any of these things. It's really hard to start just like that. Boom, and you're running your podcast. It really, you should have a little bit of social media presence build,
Mhm.
right? What do you think? It helps.
Oh, absolutely. And I think what's interesting, just to your very point, I as far as like personal accounts on social media, like mine are business,
Hmm.
but you're right. I mean, I really did. I did my research. I certainly asked around about different software. Like we were just talking about, like, hey, have you used, Riverside? Riverside,
Yeah.
I do. I am not paid to say this by any means, but like Riverside's been amazing.
Yeah, but
Um,
they're amazing.
they really are, and especially like we were just talking, like, I don't have a background in video editing, and they make it
Nope.
very simplistic, and Dr. Barb, if I could do it, anybody could do it. So
Right. Exactly. We have no background in this at all. It's
and
the background is opposite to it.
well, it really is. And you know what's so interesting though? I think it speaks volumes though about when you do have a passion and like a particular area that you would love to like speak about more, to pull in
Yeah.
experts on. I think you can make anything happen, because I'm all about just going after your dreams. And like we were saying, like, when at least before, like my first couple, as far as me as a host, I certainly do not want to speak about my guests. They were amazing. But for me, it's like sometimes you just have to lay the groundwork, you know, and you build from that. As
Mhm.
far as just the comfortability or the confidence being on camera, that's a skill in itself, right?
But it takes time and right? It's not
Mhm.
like it's not easy right away. When you start, you do it and you're just going to be such a horrible critic to yourself. You're just going to re-record maybe 100 times.
Literally. Dr. Barb, I have to laugh because you're right. Like, as far as just even editing, you start really, at least from my point of view, I was so critical talking about the likes, the and you
Yeah.
don't realize it sometimes until you're, playing it back, and
Mhm.
you're like, whoa, that's really interesting. I need to work on that. So it is, it's like public speaking skills, editing skills. But no, that is fantastic. And I am so curious, just what is next for Dr. Barb?
Well, the next thing, that's a good question. Well, I started my podcast I think that was at the end of December last year, but it was like twice a month. And now I expanded a little bit. So I publish an episode weekly. So that's the next thing to sustain this schedule, because I think it's important that I intensify a little bit. And I feel that I'm ready after having a little bit of more practice with how you publish, where you go, how you create a social media post. But once you have that a little bit down and you have some practice behind you, you can expand a little bit. So that is really where I'm heading, maintaining this structure, this intensity. But I'm also um, writing another book. It's going to be on autism and my journey as a parent of an autistic child. And it will connect with dog therapy, of course, too, in a certain way. So it's mostly for parents, it's not for teachers. This one that I wrote, Teachers and Therapy Dog Teams, about some innovative ideas, that's mostly for teachers and therapy dog teams. But the current one I'm working on is for mostly parents, I think, and interviewed some interesting people for that book as well. So the first draft is done, but with writing books, you like first draft is just one of many drafts.
You I mean, this is wonderful, and so many aspects of your life, like I said, whether it's writing a book, I mean, this is so admirable. Like, you really do inspire me. Like, talk about like get inspired with Dr.
Well,
Barb.
that's
Like, I
awesome
am
that I inspire
so
someone.
well, I'm so inspired, seriously, because we were talking about before this podcast, but
Yeah,
to be a full-time professor, like I said, I'm an adjunct professor. Being able to do that, being able to host podcasts, edit them, write for
yeah,
obviously your
I
books.
love
I
it.
mean, Yeah. I mean, and then you take it into the physical realm with Carmel going into schools once a week, like you had said. And so it speaks volumes though about your passion for what you're doing and to helping others, obviously, with that goes along with that. But I really like that, just like motivates me and inspires me, like
That's
just
great.
your
You
schedule.
motivate me too. There are many podcasters who are very busy ladies too. And I'm thinking again, like if she could do it, hey, maybe I could do it too.
Well, and I think that's like being within like the podcasting world and what you were talking about, I think so important even for beginners, that you do not have to like come out like just one every week and publishing, but that like you said, it was like an evolution. Like you started with, what was it? You said two to a month, but now
Yeah,
you're seeing,
twice a month. And then you like get a feel for it, right? How does it feel? Does it feel like I can increase it a little bit? But I think it would be worse to start in a very intense sort of schedule while not still being so well versed with all this process of, because it takes time to figure it all out, right? And get it like a routine. So it's better to start a little bit slower. But then I'm like, wait a minute, I have all these guests I recorded, and I will have to tell them that they have to wait a long time because I'm releasing only every 2 weeks. I'm like, maybe I can try it. Let's see. So again, it's trial. You never know, but you gotta be a little, you have to make a brave decision at certain point, I think. So
oh, that's fantastic. And that's really good advice for those who are interested in starting podcasts. And just like I said, just understanding that you don't have to come out doing so many all at once, especially as you're developing different skills, whether it's public speaking skill,
mm,
just focusing on camera, editing, you name it. But Dr. Barb, it has been an absolute pleasure to speak with you today. And I would love
same
to
for me.
end. Thank you so much. I would love to end this podcast on a bright note. This podcast episode has certainly been all positive. But do you have a positive quote or a positive phrase that you would like to share with our community?
Oh my gosh, I did not really have a chance to think about that, but positive. I think that I don't think I have a favorite quote. I have a favorite action
Sure.
that I
Absolutely.
do daily, which I think is incredible.
Mhm.
Every day I go outside for like 3, 4, 5 minutes, depending on the weather, and I really absorb all the sounds that I hear from the nature, and that is so incredible because this is meditation. During that time, I can also say some things I'm grateful for. So having a little routine in the morning that does not involve going on the phone, I think that is the most important thing. And of course, walking with my dog in the morning, whatever I can do in addition to this in the morning. So just skipping going on the phone as long as you can
Mhm.
in the morning, I think it's the most important part. It helps you with clarity. It helps you with setting your day in a certain way. And you still have to go on social media. I have to. I have to promote my podcast. I have to promote my activity. I'm not doing it every day though. So these are just some of the tips I think that are important that can also prevent burnouts. And I think there is something that I could share. I think that even if you go through something that is very sad today, remember that this day will be only 24 hours.
Wait, it's temporary, right?
It's only 24 hours. Don't worry about it.
That's so true. And I think like that's so important because especially with this podcast, of course, it's all about positivity, but it's that idea that we're so relatable with one another when you look at the fact that we all go through challenges, we
Yeah.
all go through those hardships in life. But that's something that I do. I always remind myself, like you said, whether it's like 24 hours in a day and that day
Yeah.
will soon be over, or if it's the fact like even when you are going through a difficult time and it may last, unfortunately, a little bit longer than a day, but that those moments are times when you could learn something very valuable out of it, like what lesson it's trying to teach you,
Mhm.
but then also too that it's temporary. Like, you think about the good times and the bad times. To me, like in order to really appreciate those good times, sometimes, those bad times make you realize how
Sure.
precious and valuable those good times are.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Definitely. You're
Barb, for
welcome. Thank you so much.
I really do. I had such an enjoyable time here with you today on this podcast episode. What you're doing is truly remarkable, really helping people, helping children too, and the education system. So continue doing what you're doing. And I'm in full
Thank you.
support because, like I said, I just want to reiterate this. You completely inspired me today, Dr. Barb.
Yeah.